Hello friends and welcome to Monster Monday. Today I'm going to be talking about a wicked bloodsucker, and it's not a vampire, it's the Stirge. Well, it's always good to have some ideas for low-level encounters, and this is an easy one today to throw almost anywhere, and that is the Stirge. The Stirge is a flying creature, which right off the bat makes it pretty interesting because it eliminates a lot of possibilities for parties that are very melee reliant, and it makes them actually have to think about how to defend against a Stirge. This is also an extremely scalable creature, so I'll share my ideas about how to do that as well. Let's get into the mix. This horrid creature looks like a cross between a large bat and an oversized mosquito. Its leg ends in sharp pinchers, and its long needle-like proboscis slashes the air as it seeks its next meal. Stirges feed on the blood of living creatures, attaching and draining them slowly. Although they pose little danger in small numbers, packs of Stirges can be a formidable threat, reattaching as quickly as their weakening prey can pluck them off. A Stirge attacks by landing on a victim, finding a vulnerable spot, and plunging its proboscis into the flesh while using its pincer legs to latch onto the victim. Once the Stirge has sated itself, it detaches and flies off to digest its meal. So, these are intended to be low level. They're challenge rating 1/8, so they're easy to kill off. As long as you can hit it, basically, it'll die. So how does it make it for an interesting encounter? Well, there's a lot of story ideas that I'm going to share, but let's take a look at the stat block first. A Stirge is a tiny beast. It has an armor class of 14. It has 1d4 hit points. It has dark vision of 60 feet. And of course, its best thing are its actions. So it has Blood Drain, which is a melee weapon attack, plus 5 to hit, 1d4 plus 3 damage, and the Stirge attaches to the target. While attached, the Stirge doesn't attack. Instead, at the start of each turn, the target loses 1d4 plus 3 hit points due to blood loss. The Stirge can detach itself by spending 5 feet of its movement. It does so after it drains 10 hit points of blood from the target or the target dies. A creature, including the target, can use its action to detach the Stirge. So, a creature can use its action to detach the Stirge because it's tiny. You don't even have to make a roll. But it takes an action to detach the Stirge. So I want you to think about this in a low-level encounter first, as it was intended. Suppose that you have a party of 4, 5, or 6 characters adventuring through wherever. That's the first most important part about the Stirge, the versatility. This could be swamps, woodlands, mountains, the open plains. I mean, technically, you could be on a pirate ship, and these things could be flying somewhere near a coast, jungles, whatever. You name it, the Stirge can be there. Maybe not in the tundra, like Arctic tundra, but a lot of versatility. Heck, this could be even like a swarm that attacks a village. But suppose you have your party, they get attacked, they're low level, even first level. I would say a 1-to-1 ratio is more than enough for a fun little encounter. So 1 Stirge per every character. You could be wicked and do 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1. Any of those are fine. Scalability here is the key. But I want you to remember that even though a party member doesn't have to make an attack roll or counter a grapple roll to detach the Stirge, it has to use an action. So suppose that I'm player 1. The Stirge attaches successfully. It does its initial damage, and the next round it's going to take some more of my hit points. Within 3 rounds, if I don't do anything, most first level characters are dead. Think about that. So this little mosquito bat creature could kill most first level characters in about 3 rounds. By the second round, unless the player's a total idiot, they're probably going to spend their action swatting the Stirge away. They can't attack the Stirge, pretty much, but they would swat it away. Now, maybe then their next round, they attack the Stirge. But the Stirge is a flying creature, so maybe it detaches and it flies 20 feet away. Well, if that party is very melee dependent, now they're in a bit of a bind. So now they're counting on their ranged attacks or spellcasters to help them out. So the Stirge, just on a 1-to-1 ratio against a party, 5 or 6 Stirges could do a lot of damage. Now, how do you make this an ongoing thing? Well, maybe there's a nest of Stirges, and the nest of Stirges keeps attacking the party, like pesky mosquitoes. The party moves out of that area. Or maybe you put the nest of Stirges in an area where the party is headed in. Like, say that the party is going to the ruins of Castle blah, 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 and that's where they're trying to go. Or they've found a treasure map to this one location, and that's where they're trying to go. But now there's a nest of Stirges, and they have that initial encounter with the Stirges, and they survive it, but they're like, damn, we got to get in there, and those damn Stirges are there. What are we going to do? So you've made a situation now where the Stirges, maybe they're up in a 60-foot tall tree, or they're up in an old ruined tower. And if the players get too close to the destination they want to go to, the Stirges will descend and attack again. So it creates an interesting situation that isn't necessarily only solved by combat. Maybe the players will have to come up with an idea. Maybe they're going to smoke out the Stirges, right? Maybe they create a big fire and they put a lot of green leaves on there and create smoke to drive the Stirges away. Or maybe one of the players, comes up with an idea to use a spell creatively to distract the Stirges, prestidigitation or minor illusion, I don't know, something like that, to create a distraction so that the players can get to where they want to go. So just by doing something like that, you've created an interesting encounter that's not just a combat encounter. Okay, so how do we scale the Stirge, this little tiny gnat, up to mid-level? Well, for one, think about all the ways that we can scale things up. Instead of making them tiny, you make these big Stirges. Now they're small creatures and not tiny. You can also make it so that the player actually has to resist a grapple and not just use an action, but actually has to make a roll. So that to detach them, they have to make a strength check that is, I don't know, you can make it DC 10 if you want to make it pretty easy, or make it DC 12. You could also have the Stirges double their hit points, right? So an attack against a Stirge now doesn't immediately kill it. Maybe it takes 2 attacks. If you wanted to scale the Stirges up, you can always add quantity. So going back to what I said before, if you have a party of 4 or 5 or 6 players, double or triple the number of Stirges attacking them. Last but not least, high level. Now you're probably saying to yourself, Bill, there is no way that you can make Stirges into an interesting high level campaign. Oh yes, I can, because get ready for it, the dire Stirge. Yes, that's right. Imagine taking a Stirge and making it a medium-sized creature. I was going to say large, but that might be kind of ridiculous. But imagine making it a medium-sized creature. You quadruple the number of everything, right? You just buff its hit points. You give it a way higher armor class. Maybe it has, these dire Stirges have like a carapace almost. Bigger wingspan, faster flight speed, bigger, hit and damage attacks, and you make the DC to detach it like 16, right? Now these annoying little mosquito bat things have become actually a threat to a higher level party. Imagine throwing like 20 or 30 of these dire Stirges at a higher level party. Who knows? I mean, maybe they just fireball the whole thing. Who knows? But I think you can scale this. I think you can make the Stirge into an interesting encounter at any level. Now, let's talk story. Because while there's a lot of versatility in where you can place a Stirge, how you use them has to be kind of a little bit more than just like Stirges attack, right? Let's get back to that destination thing. Stirges as guardians, unknowing guardians, right? So you have a Stirge nest at a destination where the party wants to go. Any level, right? Low, mid, or high. You just scale up the amount of Stirges or their deadliness or make them dire in some way. But you have Stirges in this location as unknowing guardians of that location. and they're not even actively guarding it because they have an intelligence of 2. But they're there, that's where their nest, or at high levels, their colony exists, and they don't want trespassers there. So now the party has to figure out a way around them. Maybe there are multiple nests, and the party can't just easily like engulf the nests in flame. Or maybe like a bee's nest, if they, agitate or irritate the nest, the Stirges come attacking. So I think there's a lot of cool ways that you can use Stirges to create logistical challenges for a party without them being solely solved by combat. I just thought of another example. Maybe a spellcaster uses like one of those wind spells, right? Or a wall of fog. So lots of interesting options. Cloud of daggers, to attack from a distance. So a lot of interesting options for how they can creatively figure out how to work around the Stirge. But I think the Stirge is a great annoyance, but also could be an interesting encounter. Hopefully this has been informative for you guys. And if you have any great Stirge sagas to share them in the comments below. My readers and my subscribers love to grow our community ideas and share ideas with each other. And as always, please like, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.